All right, let's talk about something that so many of us deal with, but maybe don't fully understand. It's called the hunger paradox.
Have you ever had that feeling? It's just so frustrating, right? You know you've eaten, you know for a fact your body has plenty of energy stored away, but your brain is just screaming at you that you're starving. So why does that happen? Is it just a failure of willpower? Well, the science tells a completely different story.
And that right there, that's the absolute heart of the problem. This isn't about being weak or undisciplined. It's a biological issue. Think of it like a short circuit in your body's internal wiring. And to really get it, we need to meet the master messenger that's gone haywire.
So let's get into the first big clue in this mystery. We've got to talk about a hormone you for sure heard of, but maybe not quite like this. We need to talk about insulin.
Okay, so think of it like this. In a perfectly working system, every time you eat, your pancreas sends out insulin. Insulin's job is basically to be a master key. It travels all over your body, knocks on the door of your cells, and unlocks them so glucose, your body's fuel, can get inside. Pretty simple, right? But what happens when the lock gets jammed?
Well, that is what scientists call insulin resistance. The key, the insulin, is there. It's floating around, ready to work. But the locks on your cells, they're just worn out. They've heard that knock way too many times, and they just start ignoring it. The door simply stays shut.
So you're probably asking, okay, why do the locks get so worn out? Well, it's because when we're constantly flooding our system with refined sugars and processed foods, the pancreas has no choice but to pump out that insulin key again and again and again. It's kind of like constantly jiggling a key in a lock until you just break the mechanism inside.
And let's just look at this side by side because it makes it super clear. On the left, you see the healthy response. The insulin key works, the cell unlocks, fuel goes in, everybody's happy. But on the right, with insulin resistance, the key just doesn't work anymore. The cell stays locked, and all that fuel, all that glucose, has nowhere to go, so it just gets stuck in your bloodstream.
Okay, so here's the part that is absolutely critical to understand. High levels of insulin in your blood basically act like a giant stop sign for fat burning. Your pancreas, it's panicking because the locks are broken, so it pumps out even more insulin. And for as long as those insulin levels stay high, it is physically impossible for your body to dip into its fat stores for energy. You're basically locked in storage mode.
And this is where it gets even more complicated, because that whole broken key situation where your cells are literally starving for energy they can't get to sets off a chain reaction. It triggers the next phase of the crisis, the complete breakdown of your body's own hunger alarms.
All right, let's introduce the two main characters in your appetite story. First, there's ghrelin. You can think of ghrelin as the hunger alarm. It's made in your gut, and its whole job is to shout up to your brain, hey, we need to eat. Then you've got leptin. Leptin is the satiety signal. It's made by your fat cells, and its job is to calmly tell your brain, okay, we're good. We've got plenty of fuel stored. You can stop now.
But when you're in that state of insulin resistance, this whole beautiful system it goes completely haywire. Since your cells aren't getting the fuel they need, that ghrelin hunger alarm just never really shuts off. But even worse, your brain starts to develop what's called leptin resistance. Just like with the insulin, the brain has heard that I'm full signal from leptin so many times that it literally starts to ignore it. It becomes deaf to the message.
And this really sums up the whole tragedy of the paradox, doesn't it? Your body is surrounded by fuel. It's right there in your fat cells. But your brain can't see it. The where full signal is being sent, but the message is just never, ever received. So from your brain's point of view, you are genuinely biologically starving.
So let me just repeat that, because if you take away one thing, it should be this. This constant hunger you might be feeling, it isn't you being weak. It is a full-on hormonal storm raging inside your body, all because of a communication breakdown. So the real question is, how do we fix the phone lines?
Okay, so that all sounds pretty bleak, right? But here's the good news. There is a way out. Science gives us a really clear roadmap for how to fix this, and it all comes down to restoring that communication.
It really comes down to four main strategies. First up, manage your glycemic load. That's just a fancy way of saying control the foods that spike your insulin like crazy. Stop jamming the lock. Second, and we'll come back to this one, stop drinking your calories. Third, use your muscles. Exercise is incredible because it actually creates a kind of backdoor for glucose to get into your muscle cells without needing as much insulin. And fourth, reduce visceral fat. That's the dangerous fat that's deep inside, wrapped around your organs. Just losing a little bit, even 5 to 7% of your body weight, can make a massive difference in how sensitive your body is to insulin.
I know. That can sound like a lot all at once. So, if you were going to start this journey of restoring communication, what does the evidence say is the single most powerful first step you can take, like today?
Well, it really boils down to just one thing. One simple but totally non-negotiable action.
Yep, that's it. Empty your fridge of all those liquid sugars, the sodas, the fruit juices, all of it. This isn't about cutting back, it's about eliminating them to break the cycle. But why? Why is this one thing so incredibly powerful?
It's because when you drink your sugar, it's like a fire hose of glucose hitting your system all at once. It completely overwhelms your insulin response. And according to the science, it is the absolute fastest way to make your brain go deaf to that critical "I'm full" signal from leptin. If you want your stomach and your brain to start talking to each other again, you've got to cut out the noise.
So getting a handle on your own hormones is a massive first step, a huge win. But it's not the whole story. Once you've dealt with the obvious stuff, it brings up a really big question, right? What about all those hidden sugars, the ones that are literally engineered by food companies to keep your hunger hormones firing and keep this whole vicious cycle going? Well, that's a story for next time.